As a parent, I had never heard of Kawasaki disease before my son Quinn got sick with the illness, and actually, wondered whether he was even going to survive. I thought he was so sick. It's a rare disease and it's not that well known, and it's not something that is recorded in all the health information that we're given as parents. He was admitted to hospital where he had to undergo an intravenous treatment of immunoglobulin.
The treatment's rather non-specific, so we treat with immunoglobulin, which is the antibody fraction taken from donated blood, and that is very effective. It's the only treatment that's been subjected to big trials, and that reduces the frequency of the coronary artery damage from about 25% to about 5%, so from about 1 in 4 to about 1 in 20 kids. There's no diagnostic test for Kawasaki disease, so the diagnosis is made clinically as you tick off a number of boxes of features that the children have. So prolonged fever is one, so a fever for at least 4 or 5 days, often longer, which distinguishes it from other childhood infections where the fever's often gone in a few days.
They have a rash that's non-itchy all throughout their body. They have what we call conjunctivitis, so red and injected eyes. They have red and swollen lips, red and swollen tongue, and often swelling and redness of their hand and feet. And this together will make a doctor suspect that they may have Kawasaki disease. But the most feared complication of Kawasaki disease is damage to these blood vessels that brings blood to the heart, or we call coronary arteries. In the more severe cases, these blood vessels balloon out, therefore make it more likely to get blocked and causes symptoms like a heart attack that we see in adults.
The key thing about Kawasaki disease, and the reason why we take it so seriously, is that if you don't treat it, in about a quarter of untreated children, it damages the coronary arteries. Those are the arteries that supply blood to the heart, and that can be very serious and potentially life-threatening.
And I think it's important to say that even though it's most common in the preschool children, but the group that we see that run into troubles with more complicated illness is actually the infants.
There may be no other features apart from a prolonged fever in an infant under 6 months, and the American Heart Association would recommend that any infant under 6 months who has a fever of at least a week should be investigated for Kawasaki disease. What makes it difficult to make a diagnosis, these features aren't there all at the same time. They often come on sequentially. They may have been and gone by the time the child comes to hospital. They may come on later. And also, especially in younger children, some of these features won't be there, and they may just have 1 or 2 features and a fever, and that makes the diagnosis quite difficult.
Presented as lots of different things, and they had lots of different theories thrown out there until day 19, and we're like, oh, it could be Kawasaki because they've actually looked at her heart, and yeah. So I guess it's the parents' intuition. If you know something's wrong, and they just keep sending you back home, keep going back. Like, you just keep going back if you think something's wrong. Yeah, don't go anywhere. Get a second opinion, get a third opinion, get a fourth opinion. That's what we did. So, yeah.
Because I ended up quitting my job at the time because they were putting pressure on me for having so much time off work.
Yeah.
You'd had a business that you basically had to walk away from as well.
I can hear myself.
So Kawasaki, yeah, caused all that damage. Then it tried to fix itself and caused more damage, which in the end result, she ended up having open heart surgery. So she'll live a normal length of life. It's just a few things will change. She's not allowed to do any contact sports. Medication gives her other complications, which she's got to get checked all the time. So yeah, it'll be a lifetime thing. She'll get to know the doctors. She'll get to know surgeons for the rest of her life, basically.
And because she's got those 3 aneurysms, one's been bypassed, but she also has 2 other aneurysms too. So they still need to be constantly monitored and checked.
Quinn's had Kawasaki disease twice. It was the first time he was sick with Kawasaki disease. He was 13 months old. The second time he had Kawasaki disease, it presented the symptoms in a different order than the first time, and it made it a little bit more complex to be diagnosed. After all his cardiology follow-up, after about 3 months, he was given the all clear and that there wasn't any complications or long-term impact on his health. And that was quite a relief, and we were told that he didn't need any further follow-up other than when he was an adult, to get his cholesterol checked and have regular checkups with a GP, which is something we should all be doing anyway, but to also eat a heart-healthy diet to prevent early risk of heart disease as well, which is a potential possibility for children that have had Kawasaki disease. It felt like a really alone place when you're in hospital wondering what this illness is about, and you know, where do you find information and where do you get support and where can you talk to someone else that's been through what you're going through. And that's one thing that I really valued from the Kawasaki Disease Foundation, is that I was able to find some people that had had similar experiences and was able to talk through that and support me through that. And I guess give you a bit of hope and light at the end of the tunnel that things were going to be okay.
The Kawasaki Disease Foundation is a very good resource. It's a very good clearinghouse for putting people in contact with other families. We try and put some basic publications that would be understandable to people from a non-medical background. We try and put them up on their website. We rely on philanthropy or donation as much as getting through, you know, the usual grant-giving bodies. It's a hard one to get funded because a lot of people haven't heard of it, and it's relatively rare. But for the families, it's such an important disease. It's such a big impact that we really, you know, it should be a priority in terms of research.